The grease-stained clock above the register read 11:47 p.m. Lena Brooks wiped down the same section of counter for the third time, her movements automatic, her mind elsewhere. The diner hummed with its familiar late-night soundtrack, the hiss of the fryer, the clink of silverware against cheap ceramic plates, the low murmur of truckers nursing bottomless cups of coffee. Route 66 Diner sat at the edge of nowhere, Oklahoma, a relic of better days when the highway still mattered, when travelers stopped for more than just gas and restrooms. Now it served mostly locals and the occasional lost soul who hadn't updated their GPS. The building itself seemed tired, its red vinyl booths cracked and patched with duct tape, the checkerboard floor dulled by decades of foot traffic. Lena had been wiping counters here for 6 months, 183 days to be exact. She counted them. Each one brought her closer to the number that mattered, $5,000. That was the amount she needed for culinary school, for the certificate program in Denver that would teach her everything the Route 66's kitchen never could. She was already halfway there, $2,300 tucked away in a coffee can under her apartment floorboards. 24 years old, and this was her life. This diner, this counter, this suffocating routine. Lena, the shout came from the kitchen, sharp and mocking. Fat girl, we need more fries up here. Stop daydreaming and do your job. Derek Hammond's voice carried that particular edge of cruelty she'd come to recognize. Not quite yelling, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Loud enough to make sure she knew her place. She didn't respond. There was never any point in responding. Lena moved toward the kitchen, her head down, her shoulders hunched. She'd perfected this posture over the months. Small, invisible. Don't make eye contact. Don't give them ammunition. Don't let them see that their words still landed like punches. The kitchen staff snickered as she passed. Carlos, the line cook, mimicked her walk with exaggerated waddles. Tommy, barely 19 and already cruel, made oinking sounds under his breath. They thought they were hilarious. Derek stood by the fryer, arms crossed over his chest, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. 42 years old, balding, with the kind of gut that came from sampling too much of his own inventory. He owned the Route 66, inherited it from his father, and ran it like a personal fiefdom, where kindness was weakness and mockery was currency. You deaf, Lena, I said fries. He gestured toward the freezer. Or are you too busy thinking about your next meal? The kitchen erupted in laughter. Programmed response. Pavlovian cruelty. Lena grabbed the bag of frozen fries, her face burning. She'd learned not to cry in front of them. Tears only made it worse. Save the tears for home, for the shower, for the dark hours when nobody could witness your breaking. She dumped the fries into the fryer basket, the oil spitting and crackling. The heat washed over her face, and for a moment she let herself imagine what it would be like to walk out. To strip off this grease-stained apron, throw it in Derek's face, and never come back. But she couldn't. Not yet. Not without the money. Her journal sat in her locker, a blue leather notebook she'd started keeping 2 months ago. Every incident, every insult, every time Derek stole from the tip jar or doctored the time cards. She documented it all with precise detail, dates and times and witnesses. She didn't know why, exactly. Some small rebellion, maybe. Proof that she existed, that this mattered. The journal was up to 47 pages now. Lena, Derek's voice again, but different this time. Anticipatory, excited. Come here, I've got a special assignment for you. She approached the window separating kitchen from dining room, dread settling in her stomach like spoiled food. Derek was looking out at the parking lot where 4 motorcycles had just pulled in. Big bikes, chrome catching the fluorescent lights. She could hear the rumble of their engines even through the walls. See those boys out there? Derek grinned. That's the Iron Wolves. Biker club. Real tough guys. He turned to her and his grin widened. I want you to serve them. The kitchen went quiet. Even Carlos stopped chopping onions. Send the fat girl, Derek said loudly, making sure everyone heard. Let's see how fast those boys run her off. I'm betting 5 minutes before they're asking for a different server. Tommy laughed. I'll take that bet. I say 3 minutes. 2 minutes, Carlos chimed in. They'll take one look at her and request someone who doesn't block their view of the door. Lena stood frozen, her hands clenched at her sides. This was different from the usual mockery. This was calculated humiliation designed to break her in front of strangers to use her as entertainment. Well, Derek raised his eyebrows. You going to stand there all night or you going to do your job? She took a deep breath. I'll serve them. Her voice came out smaller than she intended, but it came out. That was something. Derek's grin faltered slightly. He'd expected her to refuse to give him an excuse to fire her, but Lena was learning. She was getting better at this game at survival. She grabbed her order pad and walked toward the door. The night air hit her face cooler than the kitchen, carrying the smell of oil and asphalt. The four motorcycles sat in a line, their riders climbing off, removing helmets. They were exactly what she'd expected. Leather vests, tattoos, the kind of men who looked like they'd stepped out of a movie about outlaws and violence. The biggest one, 6'3" at least, noticed her first. He had a thick beard and arms covered in intricate ink. Prison tattoos, maybe. The kind you earn, not bought. Well, look at this, he said, his voice carrying across the parking lot. They sent us a welcoming committee. The others turned, four pairs of eyes assessing her, sizing her up. Lena felt every pound of her weight, every bit of space she took up in the world. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the pavement, but she forced herself to walk forward. Good evening, gentlemen, she said, her voice shaking slightly. Welcome to Route 66 Diner. If you'd like to come inside, I can get you seated. The big one exchanged glances with his friends. Then he laughed, but it wasn't the cruel laugh she was used to. It was surprised, amused even. She's polite, he said. When's the last time anyone was polite to us, Ryder? The man he addressed stepped forward from the shadows. Lena hadn't noticed him at first. He'd been standing apart from the others, watching quietly. Now he moved into the light, and she saw him clearly for the first time. Ryder Cole was 36 years old, though he carried himself like someone older, someone who'd seen too much. Tall, lean, but muscular, with dark hair that fell just past his collar. His face was all hard angles weathered by sun and wind and years of riding. But his eyes were different. Gray-blue, intense, searching. The kind of eyes that saw things other people missed. He looked at Lena, and something shifted in his expression. Not pity, not mockery. Something else. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. You all right, ma'am? He asked. His voice was deep, steady, with a slight Oklahoma drawl that made the question sound genuine. Lena blinked, caught off guard. Nobody had asked her that in 6 months. Nobody had looked at her like she was a person worth asking about. She faltered, unsure how to respond. I'm fine, thank you. Ryder nodded slowly, his gaze not leaving her face. You look like you've had a long night. Every night's a long night here, she found herself saying before she could stop herself. The words hung in the air between them. Lena's heart hammered. She'd broken the script, shown weakness, admitted something true. That was dangerous, but Ryder just nodded again as if he understood exactly what she meant. Come on, he said to his crew. Let's get inside, hungry enough to eat a horse. They filed past her into the diner, but Ryder paused at the door. He turned back, looked at her again. What's your name? He asked. Lena Brooks. Ryder Cole. He extended his hand. Lena stared at it for a moment, then shook it. His grip was firm but not crushing, respectful. Nice to meet you, Lena Brooks. Then he was gone, following his crew inside. Lena stood in the parking lot for a long moment, her hand still tingling where he touched it. Through the window, she could see Derek, watching, his expression dark. He'd wanted her to be humiliated, to come back defeated. Instead, she'd shaken hands with their leader like they were equals. That was going to cost her. She knew it already. When she walked back inside, Derek was waiting by the register. He grabbed her arm as she passed his grip tight enough to hurt. What the hell was that? He hissed. You think you're special. Now you think those boys are going to be your friends. I was doing my job, Lena said quietly. You told me to serve them. Don't get smart with me. Derek's breath smelled like onions and beer. You're nothing, Lena. Remember that. You're a fat nobody who can't do anything except wipe down counters and take orders. Those bikers, they're laughing at you right now. They're making jokes about you just like everyone else. He released her arm with a shove. Lena stumbled slightly but didn't fall. She straightened her apron and walked toward the booth where the Iron Wolves had settled. Ryder looked up as she approached. He wasn't laughing. None of them were. "What can I get you, gentlemen?" she asked, pen poised over her order pad. The big one, who she'd heard called Diesel, ordered a burger and fries. The others followed suit. Basic stuff, nothing complicated. But when it came to Ryder's turn, he closed his menu and looked at her directly. "What do you recommend?" he asked. Lena blinked. Nobody ever asked her that. Nobody cared what she thought. "The meatloaf's not bad," she found herself saying, "and the apple pie. If you get it with ice cream, it's actually pretty good." Ryder smiled. It was the first genuine smile she'd seen all night. "Then that's what I'll have. Meatloaf and apple pie." "Good choice," Lena said, and realized she was smiling too. As she walked away to place their orders, she felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. Hope, maybe, or just the strange sensation of being treated like a human being. She didn't know it yet, but that moment, that simple exchange, was the beginning of everything. The domino that would set her life tilting in a direction she never could have imagined. In the kitchen, Derek watched through the window, his jaw clenched. He didn't know it yet either, but he'd just made a very serious mistake. He'd pushed Lena toward people who would push back. The clock above the register ticked toward midnight. Outside, the Oklahoma night stretched vast and dark, full of possibility and danger in equal measure. And in Lena's locker, 47 pages of documented cruelty waited for their purpose. The Iron Wolves stayed for 2 hours. Lena refilled their coffee cups, brought their food, cleared their plates. They were polite, respectful, even. Diesel, the big one, left her a $20 tip on a $35 tab. The others followed suit, their generosity so unexpected that Lena had to check the bills twice to make sure she hadn't misread. $83 in tips from one table, more than she usually made in 2 full shifts. But it was Ryder who kept drawing her attention. He sat at the end of the booth, quieter than the others, watching everything with those intense gray-blue eyes. Several times she caught him looking not at her but past her, at Derek in the kitchen. At the way Derek barked orders at Carlos. At the way Derek pocketed bills from the register when he thought nobody was watching. Ryder was observing, taking mental notes. Lena recognized it because she did the same thing, had been doing it for 6 months. Near 1 in the morning, the diner finally emptied, except for one drunk trucker passed out in booth 7 and a couple having a quiet argument over burnt hash browns. The Iron Wolves stood to leave. "Thanks for everything, Lena," Diesel said, his voice surprisingly gentle for someone so large. "You took good care of us." "Just doing my job," she replied, but she was smiling. Ryder was the last one out. He paused at the counter where Lena was wiping down the coffee station. "Can I ask you something?" he said quietly. Lena glanced toward the kitchen. Derek had gone to his office, probably to count money or drink himself into unconsciousness. Carlos was outside smoking. They were alone. "Sure," she said. "How long have you been working here?" "6 months." "And how much longer do you plan to stay?" The question caught her off guard. It was too perceptive, too knowing, like he could see straight through her careful facade to the dreams she kept locked away. "I don't know," she said carefully. "Why?" Ryder leaned against the counter. Up close, she could see the details of his face, the fine lines around his eyes, the small scar above his left eyebrow. He looked tired but alert, like someone who didn't sleep much but had learned to function anyway. "Because I've seen men like your boss before," he said. "Men who think cruelty is leadership, who mistake fear for respect." He paused. "And I've seen what happens to people who stay in those situations too long. They start to believe the lies, start to think they deserve it." Lena's throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, to say she was fine, that she could handle it. But something about Ryder's tone, his directness, made lying feel pointless. "I'm saving money," she found herself saying, For culinary school, I need $5,000. I'm almost halfway there. Ryder nodded slowly. And then, and then I leave. I go to Denver, get my certificate, and I start over somewhere nobody knows me. Somewhere I can just be. She trailed off, not sure how to finish. Yourself, Ryder offered. Yeah, myself. They stood in silence for a moment. The diner's fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Outside, Ryder's crew was waiting on their bikes' engines idling. I'm going to tell you something, Ryder said finally, and you can take it or leave it, that's your choice. But I think you should hear it. Lena waited. You deserve better than this. Not because of what you might become someday when you get that certificate, but because of who you are right now. You deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. And the fact that you don't believe that, that's not your fault. That's what 6 months of abuse does to a person. His words hit her like a physical force. Lena felt tears prickling at her eyes and blinked them back furiously. Why do you care? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Something dark crossed Ryder's face. Pain old and deep. Because I had a sister, he said quietly. Emma, she was 26. Worked for a man who treated her a lot like your boss treats you. She tried to be strong, tried to tough it out. But words have weight, Lena. They accumulate. They pile up until you can't see past them anymore. He stopped, jaw clenched. What happened to her? Lena asked, though part of her already knew. 5 years ago, she decided she couldn't carry that weight anymore. She didn't leave a note, didn't say goodbye, just gone. The silence that followed was heavy with shared grief. Lena didn't know what to say. Sorry seemed inadequate. Any platitude would be an insult. I can't save my sister, Ryder continued. But when I see someone in a similar situation, he looked directly at her. I have to at least try. Try to what, Warren? Try to help, if you will let me. Lena's heart was racing. This was insane. She just met this man. He was a biker, probably had his own problems, his own complications. Why would he help her? What did he want in return? As if reading her mind, Ryder shook his head. I'm not asking for anything, Lena. I'm just saying if you ever need someone in your corner, you've got my number. He pulled a business card from his vest pocket and set it on the counter. That's my shop, Cole Automotive. I own 3 locations across Oklahoma. You call that number day or night, you'll reach me or someone who can reach me. Lena picked up the card. It was simple, professional. Ryder Cole owner, a phone number, an address in Tulsa. I don't understand, she said. Why would you do this? Because nobody did it for Emma. Ryder's voice was rough with emotion. And I've been carrying that guilt for 5 years. Maybe this doesn't fix anything. Maybe it's selfish trying to ease my conscience. But if I can help one person get out before it's too late, he shrugged. Then maybe Emma's death meant something. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. One more thing, Lena. That boss of yours, Derek, he's not just cruel, he's crooked. I saw him pocketing money from the register. I saw the way he treats his staff. Men like that don't just wake up one day and change. They have to be stopped. Stopped how? Lena asked. That's up to you. But if you ever decide you want to fight back, really fight back, you let me know. I've got resources, connections, and I've got a very particular set of skills when it comes to exposing men who hurt people. Then he was gone, the door swinging shut behind him. Through the window, Lena watched him mount his motorcycle, watched the Iron Wolves roll out of the parking lot in formation, their taillights disappearing into the Oklahoma night. She stood alone in the empty diner holding a business card and feeling like her entire world had just shifted on its axis. The next morning, Derek called a staff meeting. Lena arrived at 9 in the morning, an hour before her shift. The other employees trickled in, Carlos and Tommy, and Maria, the morning waitress, all looking hungover or tired or both. Derek stood at the front of the dining room, his arms crossed, his expression dark. We need to talk about last night, he said without preamble. Some of you might have noticed we had some special guests, the Iron Wolves Motorcycle Club. He looked directly at Lena. And some of you might have gotten a little too friendly with those guests. Lena felt everyone's eyes turn to her. I want to make something very clear, Derek continued. We are a respectable establishment. We don't consort with criminals. We don't make friends with bikers and outlaws. We serve them, we take their money, and we forget they exist. Is that understood? Murmurs of agreement from the staff. Lena, Derek said sharply, do you understand? Yes, she said quietly. Good, because if I see you talking to those men again, if I see them come back here asking for you specifically, you're fired. I don't care how desperate we are for staff. I will not have my diner turned into some kind of biker hangout. He dismissed them with a wave. The others scattered to their stations, but Derek grabbed Lena's arm as she passed. You think you're special because some leather-wearing thugs were nice to you, he hissed. You think Ryder Cole gives a damn about a girl like you? He was being polite, Lena, that's all. Don't confuse politeness with interest. He released her arm and walked away. Lena stood in the empty dining room, Derek's words echoing in her head. Part of her wanted to believe him. It was safer that way, easier to accept that last night had been an anomaly, that Ryder's kindness had been performative. But she couldn't shake the memory of his eyes, the genuine pain when he talked about Emma. That hadn't been performative. That had been real. She reached into her apron pocket and felt the business card there. Still there. Real. Her shift passed in a blur of routine. Orders taken, food served, plates cleared. The lunch rush came and went. Derek stayed in his office, drinking and doing paperwork. Carlos and Tommy kept their mockery to a minimum, as if Derek's warning had extended to them too. At 3 in the afternoon, during the afternoon lull, Lena went to her locker. She pulled out her blue journal and flipped to a new page. Day 184, she wrote. The Iron Wolves came to the diner. Derek warned me not to speak to them again. Ryder Cole gave me his card. She paused, pen hovering over paper. Then she added, he told me I deserve better. I'm starting to think he might be right. She closed the journal and put it back in her locker. 48 pages now. That night after her shift ended, Lena drove home to her tiny apartment on the south side of town. One bedroom, peeling wallpaper, a kitchenette with appliances from the 1980s. It wasn't much, but it was hers, paid for with money she earned. She showered, made herself a sandwich, and sat on her second-hand couch with her phone in her hand. Ryder's business card sat on the coffee table. She stared at it for a long time. Finally, she picked up her phone and typed a message. This is Lena, from the diner. I just wanted to say thank you for what you said last night. It meant a lot. She hit send before she could overthink it. The reply came 5 minutes later. You don't have to thank me, Lena. How are you doing? The question was so simple, so normal, and yet it made her throat tight. Nobody asked her how she was doing. Nobody cared. I'm okay, she typed, just thinking about what you said. About fighting back. Another quick reply. And what are you thinking? Lena hesitated. This was it. The moment where she either backed down and returned to her safe, miserable routine, or she took a leap into something terrifying and unknown. She thought about Derek's face when he grabbed her arm, about the $83 in the tips that represented more than generosity, they represented respect, about Emma who hadn't gotten a chance to fight back, about the journal in her locker, 48 pages of evidence that could mean something if she just had the courage to use it. I'm thinking maybe it's time to stop accepting things the way they are, she typed. I'm thinking maybe I need help. The response took longer this time. When it came, it was just 3 words. I'm here, Lena. She sat back against the couch, her heart pounding. She'd done it. She'd reached out. She'd admitted she couldn't do this alone. Whatever came next, she wasn't facing it alone anymore. 3 days later, Ryder came back to the diner. He arrived at 11 at night, just him, no crew. He sat at the counter and ordered coffee. Derek saw him immediately. His face went red and he stormed out of the kitchen. I thought I made myself clear, Derek said loudly. We don't serve your kind here. Ryder didn't look up from his coffee. Last I checked, this is a public establishment. I'm a paying customer. Unless you want to refuse service and deal with the legal implications, I suggest you back off. Derek's jaw worked. Several other customers were watching, now interested in the confrontation. Fine, Derek spat, but you're not here for the coffee, so state your business and get out. Ryder took a slow sip, then set down his cup. Actually, I am here for the coffee. It's not great, but it's better than in the gas station down the road. He looked at Derek evenly. But since you asked, I'm also here to make you an offer. I don't want anything from you. You haven't heard it yet. Ryder pulled an envelope from his jacket and set it on the counter. I'm interested in buying this diner. The room went silent. Derek stared at the envelope like it might bite him. You're joking. Do I look like I'm joking? I've done my research. You inherited this place from your father 3 years ago. Business has been declining steadily. You're barely breaking even. I'm offering you a way out. This diner has been in my family for 30 years, and you've run it into the ground in 3. Check the envelope. That's a fair offer based on the property value and current revenue. More than fair, actually. Derek grabbed the envelope, opened it. His eyes widened at the number. This is, he trailed off, more money than you'll see from this place in the next 5 years, maybe ever. Ryder leaned forward. Take the offer, Derek. Sell to me, walk away with your pockets full, and start fresh somewhere else, somewhere your reputation hasn't caught up with you yet. Derek's face went from red to purple. My reputation. I know what you are. I know how you treat your employees. I know about the skimming, the wage theft, the safety violations you've been covering up for months. I know all of it. You can't prove anything. Actually, I can. I've got a whole notebook full of proof. Dates times witnesses. Everything I need to bring you down if I wanted to. Derek's eyes darted to Lena, who was standing frozen by the coffee maker. You, he breathed. You've been feeding him information. Lena hasn't told me anything I didn't see with my own eyes, Ryder interrupted. But yes, she's been keeping records. And yes, those records would hold up at court or in front of the health inspector or the state labor board. Take your pick. Derek looked like he might have a stroke. His hands shook as he shoved the envelope back across the counter. Get out, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Get out of my diner and don't come back. And you, he pointed at Lena, you're fired. Pack your shit and leave. You can't fire her, Ryder said calmly. Watch me. You fire her and I go straight to the authorities with everything I have. You'll lose this place anyway, but instead of walking away with money, you'll walk away with criminal charges. Is that really what you want? The standoff lasted for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Derek stepped back. You've got 24 hours to get out of my diner, he said to Ryder. And Lena, you're on notice. One more step out of line and you're gone. Understood. He didn't wait for an answer. He stormed back into his office and slammed the door. The other customers slowly returned to their meals. The tension in the room dissipated like smoke. Ryder finished his coffee, left a $10 bill on the counter, and walked out. Lena stood there, her whole body shaking. What had just happened? Had Ryder really tried to buy the diner? Had he really threatened Derek on her behalf? Her phone buzzed, a text from Ryder. Meet me in the parking lot when your shift ends. She looked around. Nobody was watching. Derek was still in his office. She texted back, okay. The rest of her shift passed in a haze. She couldn't focus. Her mind was spinning with questions, with fear, with something that might have been excitement. At 2 in the morning, she clocked out and walked into the parking lot. Ryder was waiting by his motorcycle, arms crossed, patient. You didn't have to do that, Lena said as she approached. Yes, I did. He could have fired me, but he didn't, because he knows I wasn't bluffing. Ryder uncrossed his arms. Lena, men like Derek only understand power. You can't reason with them. You can't appeal to their better nature because they don't have one. You have to make them more afraid of you than you are of them. I'm not afraid of him anymore, Lena said and realized it was true. I'm angry. Ryder smiled. Good. Anger is useful. It's fuel. The question is, what do you want to do with it? Lena thought about her journal, about the $83 in tips, about Emma who hadn't gotten a second chance. I want to take him down, she said. I want him to pay for everything he's done, not just to me, to everyone. Then let's do it. Ryder extended his hand. Partners. Lena looked at his hand, then at his face. She saw determination there and something else. Purpose. This wasn't just about her. This was about Ryder's own demons, his own need for redemption. But maybe that was okay. Maybe they could help each other. She shook his hand. Partners. And just like that, the war began. The next 2 weeks were a careful ballet of observation and documentation. Lena continued working her shifts, keeping her head down, playing the part of the cowed employee. But now she had purpose. Now every insult Derek threw at her, every time he skimmed from the register or doctored the time card, she documented it with cold precision. Her blue journal grew fatter. 50 pages, 60, 70. Meanwhile, Ryder and his crew worked in the shadows. Diesel, whose day job was actually as a private investigator, ran background checks on Derek. What he found was damning: a history of business failures, unpaid debts, and 2 previous restaurants shut down for health violations. Mac, who had contacts in the food service industry, talked to Derek's suppliers. Several admitted that Derek routinely ordered cheap, expired ingredients and passed them off as fresh. One supplier had stopped working with him entirely after Derek tried to pay with a bad check. And Jax, the youngest of the crew, sat in the diner for hours at a time, his phone positioned to secretly record Derek's behavior. The footage was devastating: Derek screaming at Maria until she cried, Derek throwing a plate at Carlos's head, Derek pocketing cash from the register when he thought nobody was looking. They built a case piece by piece, brick by brick. Ryder and Lena met every few days, usually late at night in parking lots or diners far from Route 66. He'd update her on what they'd found. She'd share the latest entries from her journal. He's getting sloppier, Lena said one night sitting across from Ryder in a 24-hour Waffle House 30 miles from her apartment. Yesterday, he came in drunk at noon and started yelling at customers. One family walked out without paying because he made their kid cry. Ryder made a note. We can use that. Did anyone else witness it? Maria, Tommy, at least 4 customers. Good. We need witnesses, not just documentation. The more people willing to speak up, the stronger our case. Lena hesitated. Do you really think this will work? I mean, Derek's been running that diner for 3 years. Nobody's stopped him yet because nobody's tried. People are scared of confrontation, scared of rocking the boat. They see something wrong and they tell themselves it's not their problem. Ryder met her eyes. But you're not like that. You saw what was wrong and you started documenting it. That took courage, Lena. Don't underestimate that. I was just angry, she admitted. Anger and courage aren't mutually exclusive. Some of the bravest people I know are the angriest. Lena smiled despite herself. Is that what you are, angry and brave? Ryder's expression darkened. Angry, yes. Brave, he shook his head. I'm just a man trying to make up for past mistakes. What kind of mistakes? He was quiet for a long moment, then the kind that cost someone their life. Lena waited. She'd learned that Ryder didn't respond well to pressure. He shared things when he was ready, not before. Finally, he spoke. I told you about Emma, but I didn't tell you the whole story. He stared into his coffee. 5 years ago, I was in a different life. I wasn't running auto shops. I was running with a crew that made the Iron Wolves look like Boy Scouts. We did bad things, things I'm not proud of. What kind of things? Enforcement? Collection. We worked for a man named Marcus Wolf. He owned half the businesses in this part of Oklahoma, most of them fronts for money laundering. If someone didn't pay up, or if someone crossed him, he sent us to deliver a message. Lena's stomach tightened. And you did it? For 4 years, yes. I told myself I was just following orders. that I wasn't really hurting anyone who didn't deserve it. All the lies we tell ourselves to sleep at night. He looked up and his eyes were haunted. Emma knew what I was doing. She begged me to stop, to get out before it was too late. But I didn't listen. I thought I was untouchable. Thought Wolf would protect me. What happened? Wolf wanted me to hurt someone. A guy who'd been late on payments, nothing major. But Wolf wanted to make an example. He wanted me to break the guy's hands, put him in the hospital. Ryder's voice was flat, emotionless, the tone of someone recounting trauma. I couldn't do it. I looked at this guy, this scared father of three, who just lost his job, and I couldn't do it. So I refused. And Wolf didn't like that. Wolf doesn't accept refusal. I quit that night, walked away from the crew, from the life. I thought that was the end of it. But Wolf doesn't let people just walk away. He sees it as betrayal, as weakness. Lena could guess where this was going, but she let him continue. 2 months later, Emma was walking home from work. 3 of Wolf's men grabbed her. They wanted to send me a message about what happens when you disrespect Marcus Wolf. His hands clenched around his coffee cup. They hurt her, beat her bad enough that she was in the hospital for a week. And when she got out, she wasn't the same. She couldn't sleep, couldn't go outside. She was terrified all the time. And you couldn't help her, Lena said softly. I tried. God, I tried. I got her into therapy. I stayed with her every night. But the damage was done. She'd given up. 3 months later, she took a bottle of pills and went to sleep. The silence stretched between them. I'm sorry, Lena said. Don't be. It was my fault. My choices led to her death, and I've been carrying that for 5 years. Is that why you started the auto shops, why you help people? Ryder nodded. I needed to become someone different, someone Emma would have been proud of. So I took the skills I learned in Wolf's crew, the business knowledge, the connections, and I built something legitimate, something clean. And Derek, when I saw how he treated you, how he treated everyone in that diner, I saw Wolf. Same cruelty, different packaging, and I thought maybe this is my chance. Maybe I can save someone this time. Lena reached across the table and took his hand. You're not saving me, Ryder. You're helping me save myself. There's a difference. He looked down at their joined hands and back up at her face. You're stronger than you know, Lena Brooks. I'm learning that. You're teaching me. Something passed between them in that moment. Not romance, not yet, but the beginning of something deeper. Trust, partnership, the recognition of 2 damaged people finding strength in each other. So what's the plan? Lena asked, releasing his hand. We have all this evidence. What do we do with it? Ryder smiled, and it was a dangerous smile. We burned Derek's world to the ground. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. They would present their evidence to 3 parties simultaneously: the Oklahoma State Labor Board, the County Health Department, and the local media. Create a perfect storm that Derek couldn't weather. But they had to be careful. One wrong move and Derek could destroy evidence, pay off the right people, or simply fire everyone and shut down the diner before they could act. We need a trigger, Diesel said during a meeting at Ryder's auto shop. The 5 of them sat around a table in the back office: Ryder, Lena, Diesel, Mac, and Jax. Something that forces Derek to react before he knows what's happening. A health inspection, Mac suggested. If we can get the health department to do a surprise inspection, they'll find violations. That gives us our opening. How do we trigger a surprise inspection? Lena asked. Anonymous tip, Diesel said. I've got a contact in the department. We give him enough details and he'll have to investigate. And while they're inspecting the restaurant, Ryder continued, we hit the media, local newspapers, maybe even some food blogs. Nothing official yet, just leaked information about what they might find. Won't that tip off Derek? Jax asked. That's the point. We want him panicking. People make mistakes when they panic. Lena listened to them strategize, feeling both exhilarated and terrified. This was really happening. They were really going to do this. What about me? She asked. What's my role? Ryder looked at her. You're the key witness. When the labor board gets involved, you'll need to give a formal statement. Present your journal names provide dates. Are you ready for that? Was she ready? Ready to stand up in front of strangers and detail 6 months of humiliation? Ready to face Derek's wrath when he found out she'd been the one feeding information to his enemies? She thought about Emma, about the choice Emma hadn't been given. I'm ready, Lena said. The plan was set for Friday, 3 days away. 3 days for Lena to keep playing her part to not give Derek any reason to suspect. Those were the longest 3 days of her life. Every time Derek shouted at her, she wanted to shout back to tell him that his days were numbered. Every time he stole from the tip jar, she wanted to grab his wrist and tell him she had proof that he was going down. But she stayed quiet, played the victim, let him think he'd won. On Thursday night, her last shift before the plan went into motion, Derek called her into his office. Lena's heart hammered as she walked through the door. The office was small, cluttered with papers and empty beer bottles. Derek sat behind his desk, his expression unreadable. Close the door, he said. She did. Sit. She sat. Derek leaned back in his chair, studying her. You've been here 6 months, Lena. Yes. And in that time, I've given you a job when nobody else would. I've put up with your attitude, your laziness, your complete inability to follow simple instructions. Lena bit her tongue. Don't react. Don't give him anything. So I'm going to ask you a question, Derek continued, and I want you to be honest. Are you working with those bikers? Her blood went cold. What? Don't play dumb. Ryder Cole and his crew. Have they been asking you about me, about the diner? No, Lena lied. They ordered food. I served them. That's it. Derek's eyes narrowed. Because if I find out you've been talking to them, sharing information about my business, there will be consequences. Do you understand? I understand. Good. He waved his hand. Get out. Lena stood on shaking legs and left the office. He knew, or at least he suspected. She texted Ryder immediately. Derek just interrogated me. He knows something's wrong. The reply came within seconds. Don't panic. Stick to the plan. Tomorrow this all ends. Tomorrow, 24 hours. She could do this. She had to. Friday morning dawned gray and cold. Lena called in sick to work. She couldn't be there when it happened, couldn't risk Derek connecting her to the health inspection. She stayed in her apartment, pacing, checking her phone every 5 minutes. At 11 in the morning, Ryder texted, Health Department is on site. At noon, media is picking up the story. 2 local news stations sending crews. At 1 in the afternoon, Labor Board has received your journal and supporting evidence. They're opening an official investigation. Lena sat on her couch watching it all unfold through text messages and news alerts on her phone. Route 66 Diner, under investigation for health violations. Local restaurant faces multiple complaints from former employees. Is Route 66, Diner safe to eat at Health Department, finds numerous violations. The dominoes were falling. At 3 in the afternoon, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Hello. You bitch. Derek's voice was raw with fury. You did this. You and those goddamn bikers. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. The health department, the labor board, all of it. You've been feeding them information. You did this to yourself, Derek. I just documented it. The silence on the other end was terrifying. Then quietly, you have no idea what you've done. You have no idea who you're messing with. I know exactly what I've done. I've exposed you for what you are. A bully, a thief, a man who hurts people because he can. This isn't over, Lena. Not even close. He hung up. Lena's hands were shaking, but not from fear, from adrenaline, from the satisfaction of finally fighting back. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Ryder. Are you okay? Better than okay, she typed back. Did it work? Better than we hoped. Derek is being questioned by health inspectors and labor investigators. Several former employees have come forward to corroborate your story. The diner will likely be shut down pending investigation. Lena closed her eyes. It was happening. It was really happening. What about Derek, she asked. He's trapped. Too much evidence, too many witnesses. Even if he manages to avoid criminal charges, his reputation is destroyed. Nobody will work for him. Nobody will eat at his establishments. He's done. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, she felt something else. Relief. Like she'd been holding her breath for 6 months and could finally exhale. "Thank you," she texted Ryder. The response came immediately. "Thank you, Lena, for trusting me, for being brave enough to fight." They'd done it. Together, they'd taken down a man who'd hurt so many people. But Lena's relief was short-lived. That evening, there was a knock on her apartment door. She looked through the peephole. 2 men in suits stood in the hallway. "Lena Brooks," one of them called. "We need to talk to you about Derek Hammond." She opened the door cautiously. "Who are you?" They showed badges. "FBI. We're investigating Derek Hammond's connection to a larger criminal organization. We believe he's been laundering money for Marcus Wolf. Your statement to the labor board contained information that could be crucial to our case. May we come in?" Lena's world tilted. Marcus Wolf, the name Ryder had mentioned, the man who had hurt Emma. "Of course," she said, stepping aside. The agent settled on her couch. One of them pulled out a recording device. "This goes deeper than labor violations, Miss Brooks. Derek Hammond has been running Route 66 Diner as a front for Marcus Wolf's organization. We've been investigating Wolf for 3 years, but we've never been able to get close to his operations. Your documentation of Derek's financial irregularities might be the break we need." Lena felt like she was in a dream. "I just documented the wage theft and tips. I didn't know about money laundering. You documented deposits that don't match the restaurant's revenue. You noted cash transactions that bypass the register. You created a paper trail that proves Derek was moving money that didn't come from legitimate business operations." The other agent leaned forward. "Miss Brooks, we need you to testify. If you're willing to go on record to provide your journal and appear before a grand jury, we can bring down not just Derek Hammond, but Marcus Wolf's entire operation." Lena's mind was racing. This was bigger than she'd imagined. Way bigger. "I need to make a phone call," she said. She texted Ryder, "FBI is here. They say Derek works for Marcus Wolf. They want me to testify." Her phone rang 30 seconds later. "Don't say anything," Ryder said without preamble. "Not until I get there. They're asking me to testify against Wolf." "I know. That's why I'm coming. Give me 20 minutes. He hung up. Lena turned to the agents. "My attorney is on his way." They exchanged glances but nodded. "That's your right." 23 minutes later, Ryder knocked on her door. He came alone, no crew, just him. He shook hands with the agents, professional and calm. "Gentlemen, before my client answers any questions, I need to understand the scope of what you're asking." "We're asking her to provide evidence and testimony against Marcus Wolf. And in exchange, protection, full immunity for any inadvertent involvement in the money laundering. And when this is over, relocation assistance if she wants it." Ryder looked at Lena. "Can we have a minute?" The agent stepped outside. Ryder closed the door and turned to her. "Lena, this is serious. If you testify against Wolf, you're putting yourself in danger. Real danger. Wolf doesn't forgive. He doesn't forget. He hurt your sister." "Exactly, which is why I know what he's capable of." Ryder's voice was intense. "I can't let you do this. I won't risk your life." "It's not your choice," Lena interrupted. "It's mine." They stared at each other. "You said you wanted to make up for Emma," Lena continued, "that you needed to save someone. But I don't need saving, Ryder. I need to fight, just like you taught me." "This is different." How is this different from taking down Derek? It's the same thing, just bigger." "You said people don't see men like this because they're scared. Well, I'm scared. I'm terrified. But I'm also done letting fear control my life." Ryder's jaw clenched. "If you do this, I'm with you every step. Protection, support, whatever you need." "I know. And when it's over, when Wolf is behind bars, we get you out of Oklahoma. Fresh start, new city, whatever you want. Lena nodded. Okay. He pulled her into a hug, sudden and fierce. You're the bravest person I know, he whispered. She hugged him back, drawing strength from his solid presence. When they broke apart, Ryder called the agents back in. She'll testify, he said, but we need guarantees in writing. Full protection, immunity, relocation assistance. And I want FBI detail on her starting immediately. The agents agreed. Lena gave her statement, handed over her journal, signed a dozen forms. By the time they left, it was past midnight. Ryder sat with her in the quiet apartment. What have I done? Lena asked. You've started a war, Ryder said, but you're not fighting it alone. Outside Oklahoma slept, but somewhere Marcus Wolf was getting news that a waitress named Lena Brooks had just become his biggest problem. The game had changed, and there was no going back. The FBI safe house was a modest ranch home in suburban Tulsa, the kind of place that blended seamlessly into rows of similar houses with manicured lawns and two-car garages. Lena had been there for 3 days watching daytime television and staring at beige walls while agents rotated shifts outside. Ryder visited every evening. He brought food books, updates on the investigation. But mostly he brought a sense of normalcy, a reminder that outside this suffocating bubble of protection, life continued. Derek's singing like a canary, Ryder said on the fourth night, sitting across from her at the small kitchen table. FBI offered him a deal, reduced charges if he provides evidence against Wolf. He took it without hesitation. How reduced? Lena asked. Probably no prison time. Community service probation fines. He'll lose the diner, but he'll walk free. Lena felt a surge of anger. That's not fair. After everything he did. Fair doesn't exist in the justice system. There's legal and illegal, guilty and not guilty. Derek's cooperation is worth more to them than punishing him. And Wolf, Ryder's expression darkened. They're building the case. Financial records witness testimony or journal. They think they can prove 12 counts of money laundering, racketeering, and conspiracy. If it sticks, Wolf's looking at 30 years minimum. If it sticks, he's got lawyers, good ones, and he's got people in places we don't know about. This won't be easy. Lena traced patterns on the table. Do you regret it? Getting me involved in all this? No, do you? She thought about it. 3 weeks ago, she'd been invisible, powerless, slowly saving pennies for a dream that felt impossible. Now she was a federal witness, hiding in a safe house, waiting to testify against one of Oklahoma's most dangerous criminals. No, she said finally. I don't regret it. For the first time in my life, I matter. What I know matters. What I've documented matters. Ryder reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You've always mattered, Lena. You just didn't know it yet. Agent Sarah Mitchell interrupted the moment, knocking on the door frame. She was the lead agent on Lena's protection detail, mid-30s, efficient with kind eyes that had seen too much. Sorry to interrupt, she said. Ryder, I need to speak with you. Outside. Ryder followed her onto the porch. Through the window, Lena watched them talk, watched Ryder's posture shift from relaxed to tense. When he came back in, his face was grim. What happened? Lena asked. There's been a development. Wolf knows you're cooperating. Lena's stomach dropped. How? Derek must have gotten word to him before the FBI moved him into protective custody. Wolf's people have been asking around about you, your apartment, your friends, anyone you might contact. My apartment. FBI has it under surveillance. If anyone goes near it, they'll be arrested. But Lena, you can't go back there, not until this is over. She'd known that intellectually, but hearing it stated so plainly made it real. She was homeless. Everything she owned, everything she'd worked for was locked in an apartment she might never see again. How long? She asked quietly. Could be weeks. Could be months. The grand jury is scheduled for next month. After you testify, after they indict Wolf, you'll be safer. But until then, I'm a prisoner. You're protected. Same thing. Ryder sat down next to her. I know this is hard, but it's temporary. When this is over, you'll have your freedom back. And you'll have justice. Justice? Lena laughed bitterly. Derek gets a slap on the wrist. I lose my life. Where's the justice in that? The justice is that Wolf goes down, that his organization crumbles, that people like Emma get vindication even if it's 5 years too late. Lena looked at him, really looked. She saw the pain in his eyes, the guilt he carried like a physical weight. This isn't just about me, is it? She said. This is about you finally getting revenge for what happened to Emma. Ryder didn't deny it. Maybe. Does that make it wrong? No, it makes it human. They sat in silence for a long moment. I need to tell you something, Ryder said finally. Something I should have told you before we started all this. Lena braced herself. Okay. I wasn't just an enforcer for Wolf. I was good at it. Really good. I did things. He stopped, swallowed. I hurt people, Lena. Innocent people sometimes. I told myself I was just following orders, but that's a coward's excuse. I made choices, bad ones. Why are you telling me this now? Because if we're going to see this through, you need to know who you're partnered with. I'm not a good man trying to do good things. I'm a bad man trying to atone. There's a difference. Lena considered this. A month ago, she would have been horrified, would have seen Ryder as just another violent criminal, no different from Wolf. But she'd learned that people were more complicated than that redemption was possible even for those who'd done terrible things. Do you regret it? She asked. The things you did for Wolf, every single day. And if you could go back, would you change it? Yes. Then you're not the same person you were. You're trying to be better. That's all anyone can do. Ryder's eyes were suspiciously bright. How did you get so wise? 6 months of being treated like garbage teaches you a lot about human nature. He laughed a real laugh and the tension broke. Agent Mitchell returned. We need to move you, she said to Lena. This location has been compromised. Lena's blood went cold. What? Someone's been watching the house. White sedan, different plates each time. They haven't approached, but they're surveilling. We're relocating you to a secondary location. Pack your things. Lena didn't have things to pack. She'd been living in borrowed clothes using borrowed toiletries. Her entire life had been reduced to what she could carry in a grocery bag. 10 minutes later, she was in the back of an unmarked car, Ryder next to her, Agent Mitchell driving. They took a circuitous route through Tulsa, doubling back, changing highways, making sure they weren't followed. The new safe house was worse. A motel on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. But it was anonymous, and anonymity was safety. How long this time? Lena asked as Mitchell checked the room. Until the trial. I'm sorry, Miss Brooks. I know this isn't easy. Easy? Lena sat on the bed, which creaked ominously. No, this isn't easy. This is a nightmare. Mitchell left them alone. Ryder sat next to Lena, careful to maintain distance. I can't do this, Lena said quietly. I can't live like this. Looking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows. This isn't living. It's temporary. You keep saying that. But what if it's not? What if Wolf's lawyers drag this out for years? What if he walks? What if I've given up everything for nothing? Ryder didn't have an answer, because she was right. There were no guarantees. Listen to me, he said finally. When I quit Wolf's crew, I spent 2 years looking over my shoulder. 2 years afraid that every knock on the door was them coming for me. I understand what you're feeling. And how did you survive it? I found a purpose. I built something worth protecting. The auto shops, they weren't just businesses. They were proof that I could be something other than what Wolf made me. They were my redemption. I don't have that. I don't have anything. Yes, you do. You have your dream. Culinary school, your own restaurant. That hasn't changed. How am I supposed to pursue that dream from a motel room? Ryder pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, then showed her the screen. It was a website for a culinary institute in Denver. You said you needed $5,000 for the certificate program. I looked into it. With financial aid and scholarships, you could get in for less. And when this is over, when you're relocated, Denver could be an option. Lena stared at the screen, classes in pastry sauces, knife skills, everything she'd been dreaming about. I can't afford this, she whispered. I can. She looked up at him and what it? I'll pay for it. Tuition, housing, books, everything. Consider it an investment in your future. Right or no? That's too much. It's not charity, Lena. It's partnership. You're risking everything to take down Wolf. The least I can do is make sure you have something to build toward when this is over. Tears pricked her eyes. Why are you doing this? Because I couldn't save Emma. But maybe I can help you save yourself. She wanted to argue, to refuse to maintain her independence, but she was exhausted. Exhausted from fighting, from hiding, from pretending to be strong when she felt like she was falling apart. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Ryder pulled her into a hug. She let herself sink into it, let herself be held, let herself feel safe for just a moment. But safety was an illusion. The next morning, Agent Mitchell brought news that shattered whatever fragile peace they'd found. We have a problem, she said, her face grim. Jax has disappeared. Ryder went very still. What do you mean disappeared? He missed his check-in last night. We went to his apartment. Signs of a struggle, blood on the floor. His phone is off, his motorcycle is gone, and nobody's seen him for 18 hours. Wolf, Ryder said flatly. We think so. Jax must have been compromised. Either they grabbed him for information or... She didn't finish the sentence. Or he was working for Wolf all along, Lena finished quietly. They all looked at her. Think about it, she continued. Jax had access to everything. Your plans, the safe house locations, my testimony. If he was feeding information to Wolf from the beginning, then Wolf knows everything, Ryder finished. His face had gone pale. He knows where Lena is. He knows what she's going to testify. He knows the entire case. Mitchell was already on her phone calling for backup. We need to move you. Now. But before they could move, the window exploded inward. Glass shattered across the room. Lena screamed, covering her head. Ryder threw himself over her, shielding her with his body. More breaking glass. The door buckled under heavy impacts. FBI, Mitchell shouted, drawing her weapon. Stand down. The door burst open. 2 men rushed in, and they weren't FBI. Mitchell fired twice. One of the men went down. The other returned fire, and Mitchell staggered back, blood blooming on her shoulder. Ryder pulled Lena to the floor, dragging her toward the bathroom. Stay down! More gunfire. The second man advanced, his weapon trained on Mitchell. Ryder grabbed the lamp from the nightstand and hurled it. The lamp connected with the gunman's head, and he dropped. Out the bathroom window! Ryder shouted. Move! Lena scrambled toward the bathroom, her hands shaking so badly she could barely grab the window frame. Behind her, she heard Mitchell on her radio calling for backup, her voice tight with pain. Ryder boosted Lena through the window. She dropped into the alley behind the motel, landing hard on the pavement. Ryder followed, rolling to absorb the impact. Run, he yelled. They ran. Behind them, sirens wailed. Shouts. More gunfire. But they didn't stop. They ran through alleys, across parking lots, through the early morning streets of Tulsa. Lena's lungs burned. Her legs screamed. But she ran. Finally, 3 blocks away, Ryder pulled her into a doorway. They collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. Mitchell, Lena managed. We left her. She's FBI. Backup will get to her. Right now, we need to disappear. Where can we go? Ryder pulled out his phone, then cursed. It's dead. Battery must have died. Yours. Lena had left her phone in the motel room. They had nothing. No phones, no money, no backup plan. We need to get somewhere safe, Ryder said. Somewhere Wolf wouldn't think to look. Your auto shop. First place they'll check. My apartment, same thing. He stopped. We need to go off-grid completely. No digital footprint, no credit cards, no electronic trail. How Ryder looked at her and there was something dark in his eyes, something from his old life. I know a place. It's not pretty and it's not safe, but it's invisible. They walked for 2 hours, sticking to side streets, avoiding main roads. Ryder kept checking behind them, paranoid and alert. Every car that passed made Lena's heart jump. Finally, they reached a neighborhood Lena had never seen before. Rundown houses, boarded windows, streets full of potholes. The kind of place where people minded their own business and didn't call the cops. Ryder led her to a small house with peeling paint and a sagging porch. He knocked 3 times, paused, then knocked twice more. The door opened. A woman stood there, maybe 50, with hard eyes and a harder expression. "Ryder Cole," she said. "Didn't expect to see you again. Need a favor, Diana. You're done with favors. Paid your debt years ago. This isn't about debt. This is about survival. Wolf's after us." Diana's expression shifted. Fear quickly masked. "Wolf Christ Ryder, what did you do?" "Tried to be a better man. Can we come in?" Diana looked at Lena, then back at Ryder. Finally, she stepped aside. 24 hours. That's all I can give you. After that, you're on your own." They stepped inside. The house was cluttered but clean, smelling of cigarette smoke and old coffee. "Who are you?" Diana asked Lena. "Someone who made a mistake," Lena said quietly. "Yeah, that's what they all say." Diana showed them to a back bedroom. No phones, no internet, no contact with anyone. "You're ghosts." "Understood." They nodded. "There's food in the kitchen, bathrooms down the hall." And Ryder, Diana's voice softened slightly. "I'm sorry about Emma." Ryder's jaw clenched. "Thanks." Diana left them alone. Lena sank onto the bed, her entire body shaking with delayed shock. "What just happened? Who was shooting at us? Is Mitchell alive? Are we safe here?" "I don't know," Ryder admitted. "I don't know anything anymore." He sat next to her, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked lost, vulnerable. "I thought I'd left this life behind," he said quietly. "I thought I'd earned my redemption. But you don't get to escape men like Wolf. They own you forever." "We're going to stop him," Lena said with more confidence than she felt. "We're going to testify, and he's going to prison. And if we don't make it to the trial, then we die trying, because the alternative is living as prisoners, always running, always afraid. I won't do that. I'd rather die fighting." Ryder looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. Respect, admiration, maybe something more. "You're not the same person you were a month ago," he said. "Neither are you." They sat in silence, two damaged people finding strength in each other. Outside, Tulsa continued its daily rhythm. People went to work, ate lunch, complained about traffic. Normal life a million miles away from the nightmare Lena and Ryder were trapped in. But somewhere in that normal city, Marcus Wolf was planning his next move. And Jax, whether victim or traitor, held information that could destroy everything. The war had escalated, and they were losing. 24 hours in Diana's safe house felt like 24 days. Lena and Ryder took turns sleeping, one always awake and listening for sounds that didn't belong. Diana brought them food twice, sandwiches, chips, bottles of water, and said nothing beyond warnings to stay quiet and out of sight. On the second morning, Diana knocked on their door. "You've got a visitor." Ryder was on his feet, instantly tense. "Who?" "Says her name is Mitchell. FBI badge looks legit, but I'm not letting her in until you confirm." Relief flooded through Lena. "It's her. Let her in." Agent Mitchell looked like hell. Her left arm was in a sling, her face pale from blood loss, but she was alive. She stepped into the bedroom and closed the door. "Jesus Christ," she said, looking between them. "You two know how to disappear. Took me 18 hours to track you down." "How did you find us?" Ryder asked. "Process of elimination. I know your history, Cole. I know you used to run with Wolf. Diana Wallace was on my list of possible contacts." Mitchell sat heavily on the room's only chair. "We need to talk. The situation has changed." "Jax?" Lena asked. Mitchell's face darkened. Dead. They found his body this morning in the Arkansas River. Multiple gunshot wounds. He'd been dead for at least 36 hours. Lena felt sick. So he wasn't working for Wolf. No, he was grabbed because he knew too much. They tortured him for information before killing him. Mitchell pulled out a folder. But here's the thing. Before he died, Jax managed to send an encrypted message to Diesel. Location data, photos. He documented Wolf's operation from the inside before they caught him. She spread photos across the bed. They showed warehouses, stacks of cash men Lena didn't recognize. And in several photos, Marcus Wolf himself, a man in his 50s, with silver hair and cold eyes. Jax's evidence gives us everything we need, Mitchell continued. Locations, financial records, testimony from Derek, and now your journal. We can take down Wolf's entire operation, but there's a catch. Of course there is, Ryder muttered. Wolf knows we're close. He's accelerating his plans. Moving money, burning evidence, eliminating witnesses. If we don't move fast, he'll disappear and we'll never get another chance. How fast, Lena asked. The grand jury convenes in 3 days. If you can testify, then if we can present Jax's evidence and Derek's cooperation, we can get an indictment. But you have to survive until then. 3 days, 72 hours. What about protection? Ryder demanded. You had Lena in a safe house and they found her within 48 hours. How do we know the next location won't be compromised? We don't, Mitchell admitted, which is why I'm proposing something different. We don't hide you, we bait the trap. Lena and Ryder exchanged glances. Explain, Ryder said. Mitchell leaned forward. Wolf wants you dead before you can testify. So we give him an opportunity. We leak your location, let him come for you. But this time we're ready. Full tactical team surveillance the works. We catch him in the act of attempted murder, and we've got him cold. You want to use Lena as bait? Ryder's voice was dangerous. Absolutely not. It's her choice, Mitchell said. Not yours. They both looked at Lena. Her mind was racing. 3 days of hiding, 3 days of looking over her shoulder, or one night of confrontation with the FBI watching her back. If we do this, she said slowly, and it works, Wolf goes to prison for attempted murder, conspiracy, the whole package. Plus everything else we've already got on him. He'd never see the outside of a prison cell again. And if it doesn't work, then you're dead and Wolf walks. Brutal honesty. Lena appreciated that. She thought about Emma, about Jax, about every person Wolf had hurt over the years, about Derek's victims, about the life she'd been trying to escape. I'll do it, she said. Lena, no, Ryder started. It's my choice, she interrupted, echoing Mitchell's words. You've protected me, guided me, helped me fight. But this decision is mine, and I'm choosing to finish this. Ryder looked like he wanted to argue, but something in her expression stopped him. He nodded slowly. Then I'm there with you. Ryder, you don't have to. I'm not asking permission. If you're bait, I'm bait. We're in this together. Mitchell looked between them. All right, here's the plan. They spent the next hour going over details. The location would be an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Tulsa, a place with multiple entry points and clear sight lines for FBI snipers. Mitchell would leak the information through a known informant, making it look like a mistake. Wolf will send his best people, Mitchell warned. Probably 4 or 5 men heavily armed, but we'll have 20 agents positioned around the warehouse. The moment they make a move, we take them down. What about Wolf himself? Lena asked. Will he come? Unlikely. He's too smart to get his hands dirty. But if we can capture his men, get them to flip on him, that's almost as good. The plan was set for tomorrow night, 24 hours to prepare. Mitchell left, taking the photos with her. Diana brought them dinner, still silent and disapproving. Lena couldn't eat. Her stomach was tied in knots. Ryder sat across from her, barely touching his own food. I need to tell you something, Lena said finally, in case tomorrow goes wrong. Don't talk like that. Listen to me. She met his eyes. A month ago, I was invisible. I didn't matter to anyone. I was just the fat girl of people made fun of the joke nobody wanted to be around. And then you saw me. Really saw me. Not what I looked like, not my weight or my awkwardness. You saw who I could be. Ryder's expression softened. You gave me courage, Lena continued. You taught me that I deserved respect, that I could fight back, that my voice mattered. Whatever happens tomorrow, I need you to know that you've already saved me. Not from Wolf, from myself. Lena. I'm not finished. She took a shaky breath. I think I'm falling in love with you. And I know the timing is terrible, and I know we're in the middle of a nightmare, but I needed to say it. Because if I die tomorrow without telling you, I'll regret it forever. The silence stretched between them. Then Ryder stood, walked around the table, and pulled her to her feet. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. You're not going to die tomorrow, he said fiercely. I won't let that happen. But Lena, I need you to understand something. I'm broken. I've done terrible things. I don't deserve someone like you. That's not your call, she whispered. I get to decide who deserves me, and I choose you. He kissed her, then soft and desperate and full of everything they hadn't said. Lena melted into him, letting herself feel for the first time in months. Not fear, not anger, but something pure and real. When they broke apart, Ryder rested his forehead against hers. I can't lose you, he whispered. I can't lose someone else I love. You won't. We're going to survive this together. They held each other as night fell over Tulsa, as the world outside continued its indifferent spin, as the clock counted down to a confrontation that would determine everything. Tomorrow would bring violence and danger and the possibility of death. But tonight they had each other, and that was enough. The warehouse smelled of rust and decay. Lena stood in the center of the vast empty space surrounded by shadows and the ghosts of abandoned industry. Overhead lights flickered intermittently, casting everything in sickly yellow. The floor was concrete stained with oil, and God knew what else. It was perfect for a trap. Ryder stood 20 feet away near the east entrance. He'd insisted on being visible, on sharing the risk. Mitchell had argued, but Ryder was immovable. They were in this together. Hidden in the rafters behind support pillars in the offices that ringed the warehouse floor, 20 FBI agents waited, snipers on the roof, tactical teams ready to move. Mitchell herself was in a van half a block away coordinating. Lena wore a wire under her shirt. Every word would be recorded, every sound captured. How are you holding up? Ryder's voice came through the earpiece she wore. Terrified, she admitted. You, same. If this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, I want you to know. Save it for after. You can tell me everything after we survive this. Lena smiled despite her fear. Deal. The wait was excruciating. Mitchell had leaked the information 6 hours ago. They'd been in position for 2. Every sound made Lena jump. Every shadow looked like a threat. At 10:47 in the evening, Ryder's voice came through sharp and urgent. Vehicle approaching. Black SUV. Lena's heart hammered. How many? Can't tell yet. Stay calm. Remember the FBI has your back. The SUV pulled up to the south entrance. 4 men got out, all armed with semi-automatic weapons. They moved with military precision, checking corners, communicating with hand signals. Wolf's professionals. Federal agents. Mitchell's voice boomed over a loudspeaker. Drop your weapons and get on the ground. The men didn't hesitate. They opened fire. Gunfire erupted from every direction. The FBI returned fire muzzle flashes, lighting up the darkness. Lena dropped to the ground, covering her head as bullets punched through the air above her. Ryder was moving, running toward her. Stay down. One of Wolf's men went down, then another. But the remaining 2 were advancing, laying down covering fire that forced the FBI agents to take cover. Then Lena saw him. A 5th figure emerging from the shadows behind Ryder. Dressed in black, face-covered, weapon raised. Ryder, behind you, she screamed. Ryder spun, but he was too slow. The figure fired twice. Ryder went down hard, blood spreading across his chest. No, Lena was on her feet, running toward him, every survival instinct screaming at her to stop. The masked figure turned toward her, raised his weapon. Time slowed. Lena saw the finger tighten on the trigger. She saw the barrel pointed at her heart. Then the figure jerked, stumbled. Blood bloomed on his shoulder. An FBI sniper had taken the shot. The figure fell and Lena kept running. She reached Ryder, dropped to her knees beside him. "Don't you dare die," she sobbed. "Don't you dare leave me." Ryder's eyes were glazed with pain. "Did we get them?" "Yes. They're down. All of them. It's over." "Good." His hand found hers, gripped it weakly. "Lena, save your strength. Paramedics are coming." But Ryder kept talking, his voice fading. "The auto shop in Tulsa. There's a safe. Combination is Emma's birthday. 3/15/94. Inside money for your school. Promise me you'll use it. You're going to be fine. You're going to give it to me yourself. Promise me." "I promise. Now shut up and stay with me." Sirens wailed in the distance. Red and blue lights flooded the warehouse. Paramedics rushed in, pushing Lena aside gently but firmly. She watched them work on Ryder, watched them load him onto a stretcher, watched the ambulance pull away with lights flashing. Mitchell appeared at her side. "He's strong. He'll make it." "You don't know that." "No, but I choose to believe it." The masked figure was being treated by other paramedics. Mitchell walked over, knelt down, and pulled off the mask. Lena followed, looked down at the face. It wasn't one of Wolf's hired guns. It was Derek. "You," Lena breathed. "But you were cooperating. You were in protective custody." Derek laughed a wet, painful sound. "Wolf made me a better offer. Immunity and $1 million if I killed you before you could testify." He coughed blood on his lips. "Guess I fucked that up too." Mitchell signaled for agents to cuff him. "Derek Hammond, you're under arrest for attempted murder violation of witness protection terms and about 6 other charges I'll remember as soon as my adrenaline wears off." They took him away. Lena stood in the empty warehouse surrounded by FBI agents and evidence markers and the smell of gunpowder. She'd survived. They'd gotten Derek. They'd shut down Wolf's assassination attempt. But Ryder was in surgery fighting for his life. And Marcus Wolf was still free. The hospital waiting room became Lena's home for the next 16 hours. She sat in an uncomfortable plastic chair drinking terrible coffee, refusing to move until she had news. Diesel and Mac arrived around midnight, their faces grim. They sat with her in silence. At 7 in the morning, a surgeon emerged. "He's stable. The bullets missed major organs, but he lost a lot of blood. Next 48 hours are critical." "Can I see him?" Lena asked. "5 minutes. ICU doesn't allow longer visits." Ryder looked small in the hospital bed, hooked up to machines that beeped and hummed. His chest was bandaged, his face pale, but he was breathing. He was alive. Lena took his hand. "You saved my life," she whispered. "Again, you have to stop making a habit of this." His eyes fluttered open. "Did we win?" "Yes, Derek's in custody. His testimony's compromised now, but Jax's evidence and my journal are enough. The grand jury convenes tomorrow." "And Wolf? Still out there, but Mitchell says they're close. Your sacrifice bought them time to build an ironclad case." Ryder squeezed her hand weakly. "Not a sacrifice. Investment in our future." "Our future," Lena repeated. "I like the sound of that. Promise me something. Anything. When this is over, when Wolf's in prison and you're safe, promise me you'll go to Denver. Culinary school, your dream. Only if you come with me. Lena." "I'm serious. I don't want this life without you in it. Wherever I go, you go. That's the deal." Ryder managed a weak smile. "Worst negotiator ever. Best partner ever." A nurse appeared. "I'm sorry, visiting hours are over." Lena kissed Ryder's forehead. "I'll be back." Don't you dare die while I'm gone. Wouldn't dream of it. She left the ICU, her heart both breaking and soaring. Mitchell was waiting in the hallway. I need you to come with me. Where? Federal courthouse. The grand jury is ready to hear your testimony. Now. Lena's testimony took 4 hours. She sat in a small room in front of the 23 citizens and recounted everything. The abuse at Route 66 diner, Derek's cruelty, the discovery that he was laundering money for Wolf, the investigation, the threats, the assassination attempt. She presented to her Blue Journal 48 pages of meticulous documentation. She showed them Jax's photographs. She walked them through financial records that proved Derek was funneling cash to Wolf. And when the assistant district attorney asked her final question, Miss Brooks, are you certain Marcus Wolf ordered your death? She looked each juror in the eye and said, absolutely certain. The grand jury deliberated for 40 minutes. They returned an indictment on 12 counts. Money laundering, racketeering, conspiracy, attempted murder. Marcus Wolf was officially a wanted man. FBI arrested him that evening at his home, a mansion on the outskirts of Tulsa. He didn't resist, didn't say a word, just let them cuff him and lead him away. Mitchell called Lena with the news. It's over. Wolf's in federal custody. The trial will take months, but with your testimony and all the evidence, conviction is almost guaranteed. Lena sat in Ryder's hospital room holding his hand while he slept. What happens now? Now you get your life back. New identity if you want it. Relocation assistance. The FBI takes care of its witnesses. And Ryder, he's a hero. Without his cooperation, we never would have gotten Wolf. Any criminal record he had from his time with the organization will be sealed. Clean slate. After Mitchell hung up, Lena sat in silence. It was over, really over. She'd survived. 3 days later, Ryder was moved out of intensive care. A week after that, he was discharged with instructions to rest and avoid any strenuous activity for 6 weeks. Diesel and Mac picked them up from the hospital. Where to? Diesel asked. Ryder looked at Lena. Denver. She smiled. Denver. 8 months later, Lena stood in her new restaurant. It wasn't fancy. A converted warehouse space in Denver's Arts District with exposed brick and mismatched tables and an open kitchen where customers could watch her cook. The sign above the door read Lena's Table. Opening night was in 2 hours. Lena moved through the kitchen, checking prep tasting sauces, making sure everything was perfect. Ryder watched from a corner, his arms still in a sling but healing well. He'd sold 2 of his Oklahoma auto shops and moved the third to Denver. New city, new start. Nervous, he asked. Terrified, Lena admitted. What if nobody comes? What if the food is terrible? What if I'm kidding myself thinking I can actually do this? Ryder crossed to her, pulled her close with his good arm. You faced down assassins and testified against a crime boss. You can handle a dinner rush. That was different. That was survival. This is my dream. Then live it. Show them what you're capable of. The first customers arrived at 6 in the evening. By 6:30, the restaurant was full. By 7, there was a line out the door. Lena cooked like her life depended on it. Seared steaks and roasted vegetables and delicate sauces. Everything she'd learned in culinary school, everything she'd taught herself, poured into each plate. The reviews were glowing. Best new restaurant in Denver. Chef Lena Brooks is a revelation. Don't sleep on Lena's Table. At 11 in the evening, after the last customer left, Lena collapsed into a chair. Ryder sat next to her, both of them exhausted and exhilarated. We did it, she said. You did it. This is all you. No, we're partners. Remember, I couldn't have gotten here without you. Ryder took her hand. I have something for you. He pulled out a small box. Inside was a simple silver ring. It's not an engagement ring, he said quickly. Not yet. That's for when we're both ready. But it's a promise that whatever comes next, we face it together. Lena slipped the ring on her finger. Perfect fit. Together, she agreed. They sat in the quiet restaurant, two survivors who'd built something beautiful from the ashes of their past. The journey hadn't been easy. There had been pain and fear and moments when giving up seemed like the only option. But they'd fought, they'd endured, and they'd won. Not just against Wolf or Derek or the forces that had tried to break them. They'd won against their own doubts, their own fears, their own belief that they didn't deserve happiness. Outside, Denver slept. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new obstacles. But tonight, Lena and Ryder had each other. They had a restaurant full of promise. They had a future worth fighting for. And that was everything. 6 weeks later, Mitchell visited Denver. She found them at the restaurant during prep, Lena teaching Ryder how to properly dice onions. "I thought you should know," Mitchell said. "The trial concluded yesterday. Marcus Wolf was convicted on all counts, sentenced to 40 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole." Lena set down her knife. "It's really over. It's really over. Derek got 15 years for attempted murder and breaking witness protection. Several of Wolf's organization also took plea deals. You helped dismantle a criminal network that had been operating for decades." "I just told the truth." "You did more than that. You inspired other victims to come forward. After your story went public, we received 43 additional complaints about businesses linked to Wolf. Your courage had a ripple effect." After Mitchell left, Lena returned to her prep work, but her hands were shaking. "Hey," Ryder said softly, "you okay? I keep thinking about Emma, about how if someone had helped her, had given her a way out, she might still be here. I think about that too, every day. Does it ever stop hurting?" "No, but it hurts less when you turn it into something meaningful. Emma's death led me to you, to this." He gestured around the restaurant, "to a second chance. That doesn't erase the pain, but it gives it purpose." Lena nodded. "I want to do something in her memory." "Like what?" "A scholarship for people escaping abusive work environments, to help them get training, find new careers. We could call it the Emma Cole Memorial Fund." Ryder's eyes filled with tears. She would have loved that. They started the fund that month. The first recipient was Maria, Lena's former coworker from Route 66 Diner. She used it to get a cosmetology license and opened her own salon. The second was Carlos, who went to trade school and became an electrician. The third was a woman named Jennifer who'd worked at one of Wolf's other fronts. She became a paralegal, specializing in workers' rights. Over the next year, Lena's table became more than a restaurant. It became a symbol, a place where people who'd been knocked down came to see that rising up was possible. Lena hired exclusively from vulnerable populations, former abuse victims, people with criminal records trying to go straight, anyone who'd been told they weren't good enough. She created an environment of respect and dignity. Fair wages, good hours, zero tolerance for harassment. And it worked. Her staff was loyal, hardworking, grateful for a second chance. The restaurant thrived. On the 1-year anniversary of opening night, Ryder got down on one knee in the middle of the dining room. "Lena Brooks," he said, "you're the strongest, bravest, most incredible person I've ever met. You saved me when I'd given up on redemption. You showed me that people can change, that past mistakes don't define us. Will you marry me?" Through tears, Lena said yes. They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony at the restaurant. Diesel was Ryder's best man. Maria was Lena's maid of honor. Mitchell attended along with 40 other people whose lives had been touched by Lena's courage. During the reception, Lena gave a speech. "2 years ago, I was a different person. I was invisible, powerless, convinced I didn't matter. A man named Derek made me believe I was worthless. Another man named Ryder showed me that was a lie." She looked at her husband. "Ryder taught me to fight, but more importantly, he taught me my worth. And because he saw value in me when I couldn't see it in myself, I learned to help others find their worth too." She raised her glass. "To everyone here who survived something terrible, to everyone who's fighting to rebuild, to everyone who refuses to let their past define their future. You matter. Your voice matters. Your dreams matter. And if a girl who started as a joke in a roadside diner can build something meaningful, then anyone can. The room erupted in applause. Later, during the quiet moments after everyone had left, Lena and Ryder stood in the empty restaurant. No regrets, Ryder asked. None, you just one, sauce. Lena's heart clenched. What? I regret that it took me so long to find you. All those years I wasted being someone I'm not. I wish I'd found you sooner. We found each other when we were supposed to. Not a moment too soon, not a moment too late. Ryder kissed her soft and sweet and full of promise. Outside, Denver glittered with lights. Inside, two people who'd survived hell held each other and dreamed of the future. Lena's journey had started with humiliation and pain. It had led through danger and fear and moments when death seemed certain. But it ended with love, purpose, and the knowledge that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. She'd been the fat girl everyone mocked. She'd become the woman everyone respected. Not because she'd changed her body or her appearance, but because she'd found her voice, her strength, her worth. And in finding it, she'd helped countless others find theirs too. That was her legacy. Not revenge against Derek, not justice against Wolf, but the quiet, powerful act of showing other broken people that healing was possible, that second chances were real, that you could be knocked down 1,000 times and still get up, still fight, still win. Lena Brooks had won, and her story, her true story, was only just beginning.